never gives you the full shot. Right. Hello, every morning. Here I am again. Hello, everybody. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. It's me, Natalie, from Creative Makers. I am we've got a really big dog here. A really big bulldog tipping over my camera. It's okay. It's all right. Everything's going to be fine. Anyway, thank you for being here this morning. This morning, I am sitting here with John Curry. Hello, first person. So happy to see you. I don't know who you are, but we will find out in just a second. Hold on. I've got my iPad set up so that I can take your questions later. It'll come up. Oh, is live. Here I am. Okay, good. And we'll just put this down over here for a while because I don't need to access that. Hello, second person. This morning I'm here with John Curry. Hi, John.
Hi. How are you?
Good. Thanks for being here.
No problem.
Yeah. And you can look at me or look at the camera, whatever you want to do.
Just thought I'd look for a minute.
Yeah, go ahead and look. Okay. So I met John at a party, and at this party there were so many artists. Yeah. Everybody was an artist at that party. And I think I got my roster for the next 2 months of all the people I wanted to interview that day. But I got to you.
Yeah, there's tons of artists in Joshua Tree.
Oh,
when you come on.
So many artists in Joshua Tree. Hi, Clifton. So I'm going to ask you. Here comes the dog.
Dude, stop it.
No, it's okay.
Chill out. Sorry. That's Duke.
Yeah, Duke. You can't see him, but he's a big, giant white bulldog. He's so cute. All right. Anyway, so I met you at this party, and we started talking about art and music and everything else, and I knew you were somebody that we wanted to talk to.
Yep.
So first of all, the first question I ask everybody is, I want to know, what did your creative life look like as a kid? How did you start?
Not very much. My parents were kind of Philistines, like sports guys and.
Oh, so they weren't art or music people?
No, I don't even think until my older brother and sister, turned teenagers in the mid '60s. They, British invasion. All of a sudden, then that was the first time we either had a record player, or, that's it. My mom loved old movies and loved musicals because her father owned a theater on Market Street in San Francisco.
In San Francisco?
Yeah.
Okay.
So in the 40s, and she'd go there after school and watch musicals. So I did see, there was no Fred Flintstone for me. It was all Fred Astaire when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. So I did get that, but I didn't know any better. I didn't know that would affect me later.
Right. So, were you drawing as a kid? Was there any focus on the art sort of thing? No?
I'm still not a very good illustrator, so, no. I mean, I was anti-sports.
Right.
But I didn't know that was because I was going to grow up to be an artist at the time. I would just not show up at I'd say, hey, I'm riding my bike down to the practice or whatever, and I'd just not show up. So I got in a lot of trouble with my sports.
So you said you were going to sports, but you never went.
No. So, 10 years old, it's my dad's the coach, right?
Oh, now and you have to show up.
No, I just would say, I'm taking my bike and not show up. So I was that kid. So very disappointing to my parents.
In that way, in that way, shape, and form. Okay.
Right.
So, all right. So then how did you get into commercial art? Because you do commercial. Well, here, wait a minute. I want to back up again for a second. Is that when you started playing music?
I started playing music when I was 10 or 12 years old. I asked for a guitar for Christmas and got a 10-speed instead, 10-speed bicycle.
Oh, wow. That's really...
Immediately, traded the 10-speed for a guitar. And it took my parents till April to figure out what happened. Like, where's your bike? Oh, it's at a friend's. Whose guitar is that? Oh, it's a friend's. So by April, they figured out the bike was gone. I was that kid.
Oh my gosh. You had a whole double life.
Yeah, so I started playing I mean, by the time I was 14, 16, I was playing in blues bands with guys in their 20s and stuff.
Okay,
So it was music first, really.
so when you got your guitar, were you just self-teaching?
Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. Never took
And
any
you
lessons.
self-taught enough to get yourself into bands.
Yeah.
Okay, now this is obviously before the internet and all the rest of
Yeah.
this stuff. I mean, what are you learning from? Just what you're hearing on the radio?
Always, here's my big rule about learning how to do anything. Find the older people that know how to do it and follow them around until they teach you shit. So I was, like I said, I mean, by the time I was 16, I had a fake ID. Because back then you could walk into the DMV with somebody's birth certificate and get a California ID with your picture on it and all their info. So it was actually a legal ID. It just had the wrong picture. So I had one of those, and I was playing in bar bands at 16, 17 years old with guys in their 20s. So I learned from them.
So were you playing like lead guitar? Were you playing
Whatever.
rhythm?
Whatever. Or piano. I played piano too. My one good thing my mom did do for me, she, an old friend of hers who was moving out of a giant house, gave me a piano when I was like 12, I think. That she didn't have room for in the new house. And I still have that piano today. I've been hauling it around from apartment to apartment for 40 years.
Is it like an upright or something?
It's a cabinet grand, which is an upright baby grand. It's in that room right over there.
You'll have to show me that later.
Okay.
I'd like to see that.
So I'd play whatever. Even as a crappy piano player, I'd go and hit
comp chords or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
So you were teaching yourself piano and guitar simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is sort of like, this is beyond what the average person would do.
Well, I had a good ear, so I could listen to records and kind of from the maybe all the musicals I listened, when I was, because I did get into a period of writing those kind of old standard type songs, but I could hear the intervals. Even when I couldn't function hand-wise, I could tell that they're going down a whole step, where they were moving a whole step or a half step, so I could hear that. So I had a good ear, and I think that really helps.
I'm going to ask you a weird question. Do you have perfect pitch?
No. I wish.
Me too. I wish too. Okay. So, all right. So that's sort of the start of music. That's super interesting. But then how did you get into the art thing? I mean, how did that happen?
This is like a totally bizarre story. Later, so the other thing about my parents, sorry, I have a cough today.
Yeah, we're having super bloom around here in LA, and they're out, and everything is totally in bloom, and I think everything's going crazy.
The other thing,
allergies.
The other thing that in my family was that my dad was a big drinker. And back then, if you got in trouble and lost your job drinking, it was all about relocating. So I literally went to a different school in a different town every year from like 5th grade till high school.
Wow.
Like six moves in a row, And from all through the Bay Area, Sacramento, down to LA. The last move down to LA when I was about 14-ish, maybe. And then they decided to move back up to the Bay Area when I was 16. And I said I was done. I just took the GED test and said, I'm out of here. I was already staying out all night playing in blues bands anyway, right?
And making your own money.
And making my own money. So I just said, I'm done with you guys. And I stayed in LA and moved to Hollywood. Thought I was going to be a rock star, right? And a couple years of living in Hollywood, playing in bands, getting odd jobs, I met Jay Levin, the founder of the LA Weekly, and I became his kind of gopher. I'd come home from a punk rock van tour or whatever, right? And I'd walk into his office and kind of go, where's your keys? Where's your laundry? I'm back. I was that guy, right? 20 years old, 19 years old, something. And
let me just explain so the LA Weekly was a publication. They still have it now, but it's not what it used to be. But it used to be like this weekly newspaper that was put out in Los Angeles. It was free, and it had all the best listings for what was going on in Los Angeles. And it was especially good for like art and music.
Yeah.
And for music especially, Dave and I would always talk about how they would always feature all the bands that were playing that week, all over the LA area, and they would mark some of them as go see this band because they were really good.
Yeah. So I mean, pre-internet, alternative weeklies is where hipsters and artists all.
Right. This is all.
It's like the Village Voice. I mean, it was LA's Village Voice, and so I, met Jay and worked for him in between tours or whatever I was doing, and then somehow I became the production manager. I think I was 21 or 2 of the LA Weekly, and it was kind of like all of a sudden I was hiring artists to design ads, or I was hiring drivers to take those ads. There was no internet, remember? Take those proofs out to the clients, and essentially I was doing a kind of facilitation job, production manager of this weekly, alternative weekly at 21 years old.
So, I mean, you had just watched it enough times, and you had been doing little odd jobs here and there that all connected to it, and you were just all of a sudden sort of in the middle of it.
Well, I
mean, Jay just looked at you and said, "Hey, I need some help. Can you help me hire
Everybody
people?"
at the LA Weekly, that's how it grew. You got a job in, delivering it, and then next week you were writing a little column or something, or writing a tidbit for La Di Da or one of their gossip columns. Everybody who worked there eventually moved into the arts, even if they were a salesperson first. It didn't, that's how that was back then. So yeah, and also, it's just like people come and go, and so, and I was there.
Right, you were always showing up.
Yeah, I was like, I would go anytime I couldn't find a music gig, I was there. So, in fact, I met my wife there in 1980. We've been together now.
Don't count.
40.
Don't count. It's too many.
Yeah. So, so that's what happened. Eventually, I was production manager, and if you're the one who's dealing with the client, well, what does the client want? How do we get this guy, satisfy this guy, and get him off our hands? And you're talking to the artist who's building this guy's ad, you learn, right? And you learn how to do, even when I had my own businesses later, that mentality still stuck with me. How do I get this in and out of my own shop as fast as possible? Because it's commercial art, and how I define that is not fine art. I don't have any of my soul invested in it. I want it to look great, and I want the client to be happy, but at the same time, it's like I've been doing movie posters for 35 years now, and they all look the same. It's like the format, big star cell of guy's head, or a little vignette that tries to tell the story, and a tagline that says, she did this, he did that, together they did this.
Right.
It's like there's a format for this kind of, it's marketing. It's not.
So wait a minute. Okay, so you were at the LA Weekly for how
long? Maybe 3-4 years.
And then how did you manage to move that into working? Were you working for the studios, or was it?
Yeah, what I did after that, one of the art directors, a really good friend of mine, Eva, had moved from the LA Weekly to Cannon Films, which is a B-movie place back in the 80s.
Okay.
And I went there, and she started having me do design too. So I started designing movie posters. I think I was at Cannon Films for like 2 years, and I did over 100 movie posters.
Wow.
Like Chuck Norris, Invasion USA, or you know what I mean?
So okay,
bad B movies.
So I want to know how did that? So I understand how you came into this, but what does the person that's wanting these posters actually come to you and ask you for? Do they pitch the story to you and they say, this is what the story is?
Yeah, you get
Here's
the script
my people.
If there is one, and you try to, you do a photo shoot with the star, Richard Chamberlain, or whoever. They have all these.
So you read the script, you get an idea, you get a feeling for the movie,
right.
You get a hold of whoever the stars are,
mm-hmm.
and you're already thinking of some way that you want to portray them.
Yeah.
Because of what you've read.
Yes. And if you know, like they did some Sam Shepard stuff, like, you know, they did some more artier films. Most of it was like action films and rom-coms and, you know, just stuff that followed the formula. So really you'd end up having to shoot sometimes you couldn't even get the star, right? So we would shoot body doubles in the clothes from the movie, and then we'd retouch heads and faces of the stars onto it. You know?
This is how it gets done.
So, and back then there was like there's no computers. I bought an Apple in 1982, but all I could use it for was like mocking up the credits and the taglines and that kind of stuff. There was no Photoshop.
Okay, I want to take a look because I see some commenting. Mm-hmm. Let's see what's going on here. All right. Bear with me, people. You know how this goes. No, that's not what I wanted. You know how this goes. Oh, okay. All right, Clifton says, want to see the dog. Yes, I'll show you the dog eventually. There's some similarities, and Clifton is saying that there's some similarities in your early background and his. Mm-hmm. So Clifton is in Detroit. And Sandy Garcia, an incredible artist in Claremont, is also watching.
Right. And I mean, you know, the problem with doing this kind of commercial art, for me anyway, is I had my soul invested in music, and I always had since I was a teenager, right? But everybody I met in the music business, I didn't really like, you know, or every deal I got offered, it's like, hey, we'll sign you up, you know, you'll be on our record label, and we'll own all your publishing, and, you know what I mean? I just felt like, what? I always felt like I was just getting ripped off. And I had this wonderful cushion where I could make money. So I could tell all those people to fuck off.
Right.
I could not do crappy music just to make a living.
Right.
I didn't have to go in and be a session guy going, yeah, great song, you know.
So
I didn't have to do any of it because I could always go back and do some commercial art. So in a way, it's a double-edged sword. It kept my music career from maybe who knows?
Well, you know what? This is an interesting position because I think this is a position all artists, no matter what your art is, fall into. They fall into, I have a day job to support my art so that I get to do whatever I want, or maybe until my art takes off, whatever it is. You know, and then you get comfy sometimes, and so you don't push yourself the way you would maybe have if that was all you were relying on.
Right. But at the time, I always felt like it wasn't that I wasn't pushing myself.
Right.
It was like that.
You were being offered things that weren't for you.
I was able not to, what I felt was a compromise.
Yeah.
Right here, sign this deal and we'll own everything, including your T-shirt money. You know, it's like, that's how deals, they're still that way.
Right. Well, I think there's probably people are a little more savvy now.
Well, but I also didn't, like, I go to the Bootleg Theater or something when I'm back in LA and see bands I love, you know, indie bands or something, and then the singer's out there selling the T-shirts after the show. I didn't want to be that person either.
Right.
I don't like that. Neil Young never had to sell his own T-shirts. So the whole thing about the music business, everything about it never fit my actual, like my songs are my little babies, you know? So it was kind of like, what do you mean? What do you mean you changed this song? I don't get that. If they hire a producer for you who wants to turn you into something you're not or whatever.
Right.
Or let's speed that one up. It's not poppy enough. There's no hook. You know, you just kind of go, whatever. If I was building a movie poster for that guy, I would do whatever the fuck they want.
Right.
But you're not going to tell me how to rewrite my songs. So I was always that guy who wouldn't compromise anything, right?
So now I see your point, though, too, about how music is where your soul was, and being a commercial artist was just all about whatever you guys want. You're paying me, so
Right.
even if you didn't think it was the best way to go, you were like, if this is what makes you happy, then I'm going to do it.
Right. But somehow I got lucky in the commercial art world too, because all of a sudden I was being hired for what I did. So I wasn't getting pushback, like, because I've also done a lot of magazines. I was doing this magazine for a company in the 90s called Ray Gun Publishing that had a bunch of magazines. And I still do a trade magazine for old friends of mine in LA called Music Connection, which is
Oh yeah, I remember Music
I'm
Connection.
still the art director there. Because I've known those guys for 40 years and they're trying to stay in business. So I'm still doing that. And I've done coffee table books for big rock bands like Red Hot Chili Peppers, or I designed the House of Blues logo.
Mm-hmm.
So I've done a lot of high profile stuff, but most of it's, think about how much marketing gets done. Think about all the movies out there. It's like not everybody's Paul Thomas Anderson,
Yeah.
Get to work on a thing like Licorice Pizza once every few years, right?
Right. So what do you think about the whole movement towards AI? Do you think it's going to take over what you do, or has it already?
I think there's a lot that it will take over, honestly, because I don't think the standards are the same. Everybody hated the gatekeeper, the funnel of having to, the only place in town, LA Weekly, if you get a review from them, you're golden. Jonathan Gold just reviewed my restaurant. Boom,
Yeah.
And as much as that, no more gatekeepers, you really need that to keep the standards up. Otherwise, they're going to be paying kids who can't write.
Well, I think they already are.
Yeah. Right.
Or you get Chatbox GP writing your stories.
Right. So the writing just gets dumbed down, or becomes formula, or like what happened to all the alt weeklies is one company bought them all, fired these great writers, that they had in New York and LA, and had some kid from the Midwest writing one film review that went in all of them.
Right.
So.
Right. Well, I can see how they would. I don't like it, but I can see how they would think, okay, well, if they're going to review that
Make
one
more
movie,
money.
Why not just dole it out across the nation?
Right.
It's like franchising.
Yes.
Having a franchise chain, a McDonald's.
Yeah, it's big bucks.
Yeah.
It's big bucks writing, for art.
Now, you told me when I first met you, you were telling me about you do movies and they're very formulaic, but on occasion you get a movie that you're really interested in doing and you tell the people, you're like, listen, I already know that it's going to get changed along the way and it's never going to be how I started it. Right. But I'm going to start this one. You were telling me I'm going to start this one the way I really want it.
Yeah, and I do that all the time actually, because luckily I've been doing these for so long. I'm at the front end of the mill, right? Mm-hmm. So they hire me, they send me a new title.
You start the whole process.
And I do the first pass, mm-hmm. because at the first pass, everybody wants to be really creative.
Right.
Even
of course.
All the committee around the table in the conference room or whatever, they all want something
daring. They want something new, something colorful.
Right. So I get to design all the three-legged chairs that would actually never make it through. Right. So I make them look cool, use fonts that barely read and stuff. So,
but somehow by the end of the process, they all end up looking.
By the time I see it on Netflix or whatever in their little thing, it's like, whoa, that's what they ended up using.
Right. Does it even look like yours at all?
Sometimes,
Sometimes.
Not really. Sometimes.
Maybe just like a font or something.
Right. But that for me, that's good, because I'd rather not carry it through and make a zillion corrections on some piece of bullshit. I like my role in the very beginning.
I think it's actually probably the best
doing
part
10 ideas. Here they are.
I think it's the best. I'm not sure that I would be able to hang either with 10 revisions to a piece of my own work that I might have grown up to at some point or another.
Even if they make a couple of corrections. I start going, don't you have production people to do that? Why are you sending this back to me for this small correction?
Right.
Because I charge more than the people on staff that are just changing typos and stuff.
Right.
So why are they sending it back to me?
Huh. So, I know that music is your big baby, but I mean, you started doing all this art stuff. Has it transpired into anything that you do for yourself, like on a visual basis?
It's funny, not necessarily visual, but in the late 2000s, or was it, no, late 90s, around 2000 sometimes, I started doing my little shop that did mostly film and publishing type of stuff. We had maybe 11 people or so, tiny little business. We started doing motion graphics, which is making type fly around on TV commercials and shit.
Uh-huh.
And I was in a meeting once, and I showed them a bunch of stuff, and they were like, yeah, got anything else? You know, that kind of reaction to the presentation. And then I went home and I realized, being a musician, I should have put fucking sound design on those things. So I hired a good friend of mine that's a producer, and his name's Biff Sanders, and had him just, the next presentation, just so
he just added all this
all this sound design to all my animations, right? And they loved it. And I realized your ear tells you what you see. So from then on, he just came on as a partner, and we just knocked out, and to this day, we did a ton of stuff together. We did, little bumpers and commercials for Universal, Disney, every fucking, it's an industry town. So we did, and he still does that. In fact, I just worked on Top Chef New Orleans 13 or something with him just a few weeks ago, because I go in there and I play instruments or whatever, like bring your ukulele, let's play. When the Saints come marching in backwards, or what, you know what I mean? We're doing all these cues for these TV shows, and I'm playing music, and I've made actually more money playing music, doing that kind of stuff, commercial music, I guess.
Oh, isn't that funny?
Than I have selling my own stuff. But I still get to fund recording, like sometimes we just did it. I recorded an EP with some great musicians out here called Los Panchos Tones, but I pay them as work for hire, the musicians, and then I own those tracks. Right. So I take them in, and Biff and I tear them apart. We go, let's loop that drum sound right there, and it ends up paying for the recording of all my personal music, because I cut them up and make 11-second cues.
Right, and you just keep using them. Use
them over and over again. Or, like for Top Chef New Orleans, I had recorded all this stuff with some great people in LA it was all like kind of ukulele and brushes and stuff like that. It's perfect for cues for that type of show. So we ended up chopping it all up and using it again for TV shows. So for me, that's another way I get a little bit of income for it. It supports my music, because I don't sell very many. This last EP I put out, which you can find on Bandcamp, John Curry Bandcamp.
I'll put that up for you guys later.
I was shocked. Like normally it takes me a year to sell maybe 300 downloads or something, right? Well, in the first month this has been up or something, it's sold like 400. There's been 400 downloads.
Wow.
Including, like we were talking about earlier, like who are those 17 people in New Zealand? Right. Should I tour there?
Right. He said he had 17 people buy his album in New Zealand, and that maybe it was warranting a tour in New Zealand for him.
But it's kind of like you're going, well, did I get on some influencers list or something? Yeah. How did 17 people know in New Zealand to buy this thing? So anyway, so I basically just intermingled my music and playing instruments, because it's kind of like playing instruments for somebody my age. It's my yoga at this point. That's what I do. I play instruments. I don't play golf. I don't play cards with the guys once a week. I don't have any of those normal things that old guys do when they get old hobbies. All I have is I know how to play instruments.
It's really interesting that it made that kind of big transition, though. I mean, because here you were very, you know, your work was your child and your baby, and an aspect of your work made it into commercialism.
Right.
It's such
funny
a
that
funny
way,
little
but you
turn.
would never recognize it, right? We're just taking the drum thing and making a
And
loop.
still,
You know what I mean? So,
I
like,
almost feel like in a way it involves a whole new part of your brain, like having to pull stuff apart and like reimagine how to use that little
exactly.
piece.
But like Beth, for instance, who I do it for other, because what happened after a while at my business, Smart Pill, was we were doing so much stuff that we were hiring all these kids to put sound design on stuff, right? And all of them have grown up and are now like composers for television, and now they hire me.
Oh, isn't that funny?
So I go in there all, John, I've got this whole MIDI track. Can you bring in like some old acoustic to give me some organic feel? Or so they want one instrument that sounds. So I'll show up at their studio and just play like a lush grand piano over their MIDI drum track or whatever. So.
And make it all work.
Yeah, so I get to play a lot of music, so it works for me.
Wow. Okay, I see some stuff happening, so let's see what's happening. All right. Clifton says, I can already tell it is his personality and street sense that created these opportunities called making your own luck. I like this gentleman very much. That was Clifton.
Thank you, Clifton.
Tashi Bunkles is watching. Hey, Tashi, I've been thinking about you. I'm glad to see you here. I kept meaning to like reach out to you to see if you were okay. Hey, Jaime. Hello. Love that couch. Yes, the couch behind me is very cool. This is a very super cool house. We're sitting sort of on a top of a hill, and I'm just gonna.
In the mid '90s, Gloria and I, my wife, got into mid-century modern stuff. So that's an actual Eames couch from
Eames couch
back then.
But I want this view. I don't know if you can see it, but this view. Oh, there, sort of, and it's all desert, and we're just sitting
We're in the desert.
This beautiful big space. Now you can even see the couch better. That's even better.
Yeah, so we got into mid-century modern stuff, and we paid nothing for it in the '90s. Nobody wanted it, and then like Dwell magazine came out, and it was like boom, all this stuff's worth a fortune now.
Yeah.
Funny.
So I have a question. Do you have any of the movie posters that you worked on? Could you show us? Or are they not here?
I don't really have anything here that I can show you.
Because you're like, by the time it gets to that point, you don't even want it?
Yeah, because the finished ones sometimes never even look like what I presented. And, like a lot of the stuff I did like for B movie films back in the 80s and stuff, they're still on the DVDs if you want to go look. But it's all, like I said, Death Wish 3 kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Charles Bronson.
I know that you have a music project that you're doing here in Joshua Tree with, I'm trying to remember her first name, Williams.
Victoria
Williams.
Yeah.
And I know that there's another person involved.
Ron Terrio.
What kind of music? I didn't get to see you that day after we met. You were like, we're playing in this next week. And then I let you know, I wish I could be there, but I can't.
Victoria Williams is an amazing singer-songwriter, and she had a really burgeoning career. Starting in the mid '80s into the '90s, but she got MS, and it kind of derailed her. She's still done a ton of stuff. I mean, Google Victoria Williams Jay Leno, because that clip when she was on Jay Leno's show is fucking amazing. But anyway, she's out here. She's been in the desert forever. She and Ron Terrio and I do a completely improv thing where Ron plays lap steel, I play piano, and she plays this giant.
Is it like a harp?
It's like a zither, really. It's like a Chinese zither. I think it's called a kabong or shabong or It's like a koto. It's like a Japanese koto, which is a string instrument. You can bow it or you can pluck it.
How many strings is it?
I think there's maybe 12.
Okay.
And it's a big box. And we just do an improv, and she sings and tells stories, and it's like the Victoria monologues with, atmospheric music. Sort of like, what's that NPR show where people tell stories, but
Oh, The Moth?
there's music underneath? I can't remember.
The Moth, maybe?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Anyway, it's like that. It's really fun, and I'm shocked how much people like it out here because they keep on asking us to play it a zillion different things.
That's really great, right?
Yeah.
Do you guys have any plans to record?
We're actually going to go into Pat Kern's studio. This guy, Pat Kern's, who also has a local radio show out here. That's what I love about living in the desert. It's a small, there's only maybe 100,000 people in all of the 5 towns out here. And amongst that, there's maybe 5 or 10,000 people that are just the artist community. So you end up knowing everybody. We have our own radio show on Sunday afternoons where you can listen to all the local bands. Pat does a show where essentially it's only people from this area that get played. But he was from Portland originally, and he was a producer and had a studio up there. But he built an all I'm spacey, where it's all powered by the sun.
Oh, solar?
Solar,
Okay.
all solar studio out in Landers. So we're going to go in there. We have 2 days booked, all day, and we're going to cater it because it's going to be a little kind of party because that's what we do. We only improv. It's not like we're going to be overdubbing.
Right.
So we're just going to improv and record it all.
So you're just gonna do it live right there on the spot, and
And
you're
we're going to film it. It's going to be filmed by the local paper.
Oh, that'll be interesting.
There's a woman out here that started another kind of alt weekly type of paper again, or magazine again, called Joshua Tree Voice.
I saw it.
And they're going to film the whole thing too. So we'll see what happens.
Wow, that sounds really exciting.
Yeah, great. It's really cool. And then I play my solo shows, which I'm backed up by these guys, Los Panchos Tones, who are all like studio musicians. They live here, but they do everything remotely. So Denny Weston Jr., whose dad was Dion's bass player, he has a place in 29 Palms, a duplex, where the other side of it is one side of it is just a drum studio where he's got a big tent in the living room, and people from all over the world send him the tracks, and he plays drums and sends them back.
Oh, wow.
And Josh, the guitarist who's out in Landers, does the same thing. Just, people hire them to do the tracks, and they don't even have to leave their own little studio.
That's
kind of how music is moving towards these days.
It's really cool, but it's also very sad in some ways. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because there's such camaraderie in being with a group of people and feeling that energy that you get, whether you're in a room with a bunch of people doing art with you in any way, shape, or form, whether it's painting or music.
Well, and that's why they
else.
love it so much when they can record like somebody like me that's local, because then we actually go into the studio and just play live.
Right.
We did that 5-song EP in 2 days.
It's pretty incredible. So, you were telling me that you were thinking about slowing down and possibly retiring or whatever. What are you hoping to have happen, or what are you hoping to make happen in these next coming years?
Well, I'd like to not do as much commercial artwork if I don't have to, but I only work part-time now, kind of 20 hours, 25 hours a week, or 30 at the most. So, and it's freelance. So sometimes I'm really busy, sometimes I'm not. And I'm going to continue doing that because I can bring in cash. But also in a small community, the music community out here is huge. One of the things about out here too is that the living room salon thing is really big. It's like people have full-on stages and clubs
in their
at their
living,
house,
yeah.
you know.
And they just invite people and charge a nominal fee at the door or whatever.
Yeah,
And
it's
it
all
goes to the
donation
artist.
based.
Yeah.
It goes to the artist or whatever, you know. So, or you know, like the galleries, like uh, just a couple months ago, or I think you posted the picture. It was a Richard Duardo retrospective at Taylor Junction, which is run by Lolo Castillo, who used to work for Duardo back in the 80s or whatever. And you know, he's all the openings tonight. Bring your piano, come down and just play. So I'll just go down there and play piano at the opening or whatever.
Right, you just impromptu.
Yeah, and I'll just improvise. So there's so much going on out here all the time that, you know, it's the first time in years that Gloria and I've had to actually have a calendar going. Oh no, we triple booked ourselves and we told them we'd be there and we're coming to that opening or going to that party or going to that show. Because there's tons of little clubs, there's tons of music going on, there's tons of galleries.
Yeah. There's a lot of art stuff going on here.
It's a great place for sort of, you know, art for artists. And it's a great place for artists.
So this is very impromptu, but I can't help but notice that your piano is behind us. Do you want to play a song for everybody?
I could try, sure. My throat is
It
very
doesn't have
fucked
to
up.
be very long or very big. I hope you guys don't. The moth. Yes, the moth. All right, I'm going to put you. We're going to switch that over to him. There you go. All right. Or if you would prefer to play the guitar, I mean, whatever you want.
Nah.
Yeah, this is it.
Piano is actually my second instrument, but I'm a better guitar player than I am a guitarist.
Okay.
But, a better
Piano player.
pianist. Is this working?
Your sustain?
It's
I don't
not
know.
working.
No. Well, can you play without it?
Yeah, maybe. Different song.
Every other night, trying to get it right. Oh, yeah. 'Cause the world keeps dragging me down. There's never enough to go round. Still got to try. Time is goes oh yeah. 'Cause the world keeps breaking my heart. I know it's gonna get apart.
That was great. Yay!
Thanks, Duke.
I don't know if you guys heard, but we had some audience
here, Dick.
participation here by the dog. Here, we're going to try and get him on camera for you. Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? There he is.
Look.
Oh.
Look, Dookie. Look up there.
Okay, that's a big dog. Clifton, you're getting your wish. Fish, fish, you get your wish.
Look over here. Gotta
Well,
see your
that's
face.
at
Oh,
least we
well.
got it.
Whatever. Okay. Yeah.
There we go. All right. He's a big boy. He's a good howler. He's really good. Oh, is that your thing? Is it turned on? Is it feeding?
Feedback?
Yeah.
There we go.
Are you disappointed with how? I mean, you got a lot out of your music career. I think lots of stuff that you didn't expect. But are you disappointed that you didn't make it the way you thought you wanted to?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like to travel.
Well, that would put a damper on things
Right.
for sure.
So, yeah, I like when I get there, but just the traveling part is not good. So, I'm not very good with scheduling, so touring and stuff never really appealed to me that much. But no, yeah, sure, I would have loved to have more people hear all my music. So,
I know, but now you've got a whole different venue for it.
yeah,
I mean, and now things that you write and tear apart, and I mean, lots of people do hear it. They just don't know it's you.
right. That's true, but they'll never know. I mean, I don't even know. I don't listen to those. I don't watch those shows. I mean, Biff does tons of stuff that he uses my stuff on that I've never even watched. I've never watched like a Housewives of something or whatever, because he'll do that music too.
I'm going to ask a question related to money, so I hope you don't mind.
Mhm.
But like stuff like that, where you pull things apart that you own and you put it or whoever a movie or a show. Do you make money like just by selling it initially, or do you make money actually in residuals too?
It depends. Not for the cues, you don't make residual money, but if you do the opening music,
And
you'll
it
make money
plays
from that forever.
every time.
Yeah, and sometimes that's in design too, like that Chili Peppers book, for instance. I think it was HarperCollins, maybe. The inside was work for hire, but for some reason I own the cover. I don't know, that's their contract. But so every time that book gets republished in some country around the world, they've got to get me to sign off and give me money to use the cover.
Wow.
So that's been crazy because, it's like if it's Brazil, well, how many people are in Brazil? It's like, so you can charge more. But then if some little company or little country calls, like, it was some
Yemen?
weird place.
Something like
Yeah,
Yemen?
not Yemen, probably, because, but
Oh,
there
no.
was some, I want to say Moldova or something, some like Eastern European. I'll go, whatever, give me $2,000, it's yours, or But you keep on making money off stuff. I'm not sure I even believe in that. Like that people, it's the same thing about owning publishing or whatever, or reselling the same widget over and over again. I'm not sure that I even like that concept, to be honest.
It's a really interesting one.
Because it's like
getting money
rentier class
perpetually.
from the, it's like you own the building and you're just renting, or you're collecting money from people. I'm kind of anti-capitalist, if you notice, but I just don't even know if I want to keep collecting royalties from something that you've sold.
How would you even turn that off? Hello, I know you're sending me money, and I did work for you 30 years ago.
Of course I wouldn't. But you know what I mean. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm not going to accept your $1,000 a month or whatever it is.
All these concepts are baked into the cake at this point, and I'm
Right.
never going to turn down the money that shows up in my mailbox or whatever. But at the same time, it's kind of like it's the difference between improv and I want to do that once, and I want to do it live, and I want it to just go out there as that. I don't want to, tweak it and make it better and have a committee tell me what it should, So the balance between trying to do the art that I've done over my lifetime, which is kind of committee based.
Do you
You
ever
know?
wonder though about like when somebody else hears a piece of your music
Mhm.
and they hear something that they want to change in it or
Mhm.
tweak a little? Do you ever wonder like what are they hearing and maybe it would be interesting?
Um,
Or do you're just like nope, this is the complete package. This is
no,
it's done.
I've had people come in and play a guitar part that transformed the song, and it was like, well, you're now a co-writer because that it just became that way. But that's rare that happens
Hmm.
because normally I already have all the guitar parts written, so I'm
Right.
not even hiring a guitar part player. But no, I think that you can, if a producer that I really respect comes in and says something that blah blah blah, yes. But if it's just like
Somebody walking down the street.
yeah, or like a lot of times it's like they'd have to have the producer would have had to do a record that I really loved. You'd have to have some fucking foundation.
To have some sort of
Can't be
weight.
just some like, hey, who's this producer they hired?
It's a really
Never heard of him.
yeah,
Oh,
it's an interesting position because it really speaks to
mhm.
it really speaks to being true to who you are and knowing exactly what you want and not letting yourself be influenced by something on the outside. I mean,
Yes,
there's a time and place for it, but for the most part, turning around and asking people, well, what do you think? What do you
right.
think should be different? Maybe isn't the way to go.
I don't normally do that. But I also like just find people to work with that I really trust because, like for instance, the vocals on a recording that I do, I don't even stick around for the comping they do now. I just go in, I sing it 4 times, and I leave,
Hmm.
and then I let the guy
And then
who's
they just
recording and
mix them.
producing it go through and do the first pass.
Hmm.
Because I'll just start back. I'll just sit there going, I've done it before. I sit on the couch behind the guy who's mixing or whatever. He's all, you like that snare drum sound? And it's like, all I'm doing is listening to the snare drum for the next half hour.
I
I
know.
don't even want to go there. So I just let them mix it. I don't go to the mixes. I don't do anything. I send notes back if I don't like it.
Right, right.
But otherwise, I don't want to be there going,
You
Because if
listen.
I'm not the one actually taking the dial and going from 1 to 10 back and forth, I have
Yeah.
no idea how to do you know what I mean?
Yes. No,
You
I
have to be
understand.
hands-on, brush strokes. You're doing a brush stroke. It's like, is somebody going to say harder there?
Right,
It's like, unless you've got it in your hand, you don't know anything.
right. Exactly.
So
That is
that's kind of how I
exactly
feel about the audio of the thing. I can hear it when I don't like it. The voice is too mixed. There's too much reverb. I can tell.
it.
I
Right,
write extensive notes, but they
right.
end up being more like think Fripp, or
Think Fripp.
like Robert Fripp. Like,
Oh.
well, you're doing a guitar overdub.
Oh, and
You
so be
know,
more like that. Okay,
you know what I
gotcha.
mean?
Yeah.
They're not like, hey, use this guitar pedal, do I, I give them art direction.
Right. You're
You
thinking
know,
more globally
right,
rather than
right.
on a minute.
It's kind of like the things you would say at a photo shoot.
Yeah.
You're not going, hey, you
Right.
know,
Turn your head left a little and smile and look a little smirky. You're thinking,
ma-
look, make love to the camera
yeah,
or
just make them feel more comfortable so they
yeah.
get more out of them. That
Think
kind of
about
thing.
being at the ocean,
So,
whatever it is.
right.
All right. So let's see okay, we're just about at that time.
Okay.
Would you like to give anybody any last words before we sign off?
Not really.
Not really. No,
No.
no last
No.
thoughts about
You
art
could-
or art direction or music or
You-
anything?
Well, you can go listen to some of my music on Bandcamp, and then you'll probably get a better idea of who I am and where my, where, because the music is, some of it's kind of rock, some of it's kind of pop in an old sense, not like modern pop. Because most of the music out there today is so worked over. It's really hard
It's
for
pretty
me
glossy.
to listen to it. It's like I like to record stuff where it feels more
Organic.
for the that word's overused at this point, but
No, I
definitely I leave the mistakes in. Like all the vocals on this latest 5-song EP is called the 29 Sessions. Recorded them in 2 hours. Just went in there and sang all those 5 songs and left. I didn't go back. There's no auto tune. There's none of that kind of stuff. So it's my quirky voice, and I like it that way. It's like I don't want to just sit there and tweak on, because I do that on. I do most of my work for movie posters in Photoshop. They'll send me a 800 layer Photoshop thing because they never. The original photo is at the bottom down there somewhere. They never get rid of anything in case they have to go back to it. So they'll send me these files that are like, 6 gigs.
Oh my God.
One
Really
Photoshop file, And I tweak all day, because you have to make these things look finished, right? Even for the presentations nowadays with the tools you have. Back in the day, I could do a rough comp and they'd go sketch and they'd go, cool, build it.
Yeah.
Nowadays, they have to look like finished movie posters. Right? And it's the same thing. I tweak on a computer all day. I know how to use Pro Tools and I can record myself, but I don't because I want to just concentrate on the performance.
Right.
So I don't. I never.
It's really interesting to me how there's in music, there's people that really love the performance aspect and really embrace the live and the imperfect. And then there's people that really love the recording part of it and really like tweaking and adding just the most minute details and loving that. And God bless them. I'm not that person. But
no, I love working with those persons. That's the partner I need because I don't have the patience for it. I'd rather be starting another new song or like I said, I leave it. I don't go to the. I haven't gone to a mix of any of my music for at least 20 years.
Wow.
Just don't even. It seems like long and tedious, and I don't need to. As long as I have control of the finished product, then I can always say no, change that, do this. I think I don't like that. I want to recut that vocal or whatever.
Right.
Let's get a different guitar solo. Let's put a flute on it. I can always. I'm producer.
Right.
I want to stay above the twiddling the knobs.
Details. You just want to be the idea guy.
Right.
I don't blame you. And with that, be the idea guy.
Thank you.
All right, you guys. Have a beautiful Sunday. Happy Easter. Happy Passover. Happy whatever. Happy day. Have a beautiful day. I'll talk to you later. Bye.